Are you challenged with self-doubt? Well, today I'm going to give you 3 points to work through this. And if you see until the end, I have an extra point for you then. Now, I discovered the more and more I've grown, I've had doubt come up many, many times. Growing in my career, growing in my business, or starting a business. And the personal side, when sort of like dating situations, the more I've come out of my comfort zone, the more I've had that voice coming up in my head of like, oh, can you do this? Oh, is this right? And it can come up with some right lies sometimes, like, oh, maybe this isn't for you. And sometimes it can be genuinely the case, of course, but sometimes our brain comes up with some very good lies. I even remember doing my driving test and thinking maybe driving isn't for me. How crazy is that? And now I can drive very comfortably, even though I haven't driven for a while. Still got my license, everything. And this is really because the voice inside of ourselves, we're trying to keep ourselves safe. We're, as human beings, we're not designed, we're kind of put in this way that we're looking for comfort all the time. And that's not how we grow. But the voice is trying to hold us back to keep us alive, to keep us safe. And when something uncomfortable or different comes up, the brain starts going, oh, this is unusual, this is uncomfortable. And therefore it starts to hold us back a little bit. And also we can have a negative bias again because of that voice trying to keep us alive. And if we don't train ourselves to start thinking positively, especially about ourselves in this sense of self-doubt when that negative voice comes up, if we don't start managing our psychology and our mindset, then it's going to be very, very difficult. And ask yourself this, how is it helping you going through a load of self-doubt and not being able to do the things you want to do, not being able to progress in life? Because if you're anything like me, it stopped me from socializing, it stopped me from things like business, it stopped me from things in my career until I got a hold of it and then started working through it. Now, and just before we go into the 3 points, I just wanted to ask you if this was something that you're really, really challenged with, because sometimes self-doubt can really block us going towards what we want in our personal and or professional life. Like for me, it's maybe this is the case for you. It come up with things like, you can't do that. Who are you to be doing that? What will people think of you if you do that? I've had it so many times. It's made me cry, that voice. And until I did something about it, I decided to take control of this voice and work through it, from learning lots and lots in self-esteem and confidence. And that's why I created this podcast. And this is also why I'm creating this challenge, the self-esteem and confidence booster challenge, which is going to be an 8-week challenge for you to get you through an easy system to get you more confidently to what you want. So getting you clear on what you want and eliminating some of that self-doubt. And there's a special early bird price until midnight on Saturday EST time. And there's 3 prizes to be run, including some coaching as well. So you can find that in the show notes below. Now, let's go on to some 3 tips for dealing with self-doubt today. The first thing is to remind yourself of your own progress. We often forget about the times when we've done something good, we've overcome a challenge, when we're probably doubting ourselves in the first place then. So remind yourself of all the things you've overcome in your life, because that's really going to retrain the brain to focus on the greatness about you. And if your default is to focus on the negatives and the mistakes you might make, well, if you start training it to look at all the great stuff you have done and are doing, then your brain's going to search for that and you're going to feel better and more confident as a result, rather than having the self-doubt. The second thing is focus on the effort and the habit, not the outcome. I'll say that again. Focus on the effort and the habit, not the outcome. You need to know what the outcome is, of course, else you don't know what you need to be doing. You don't know where you're going. If you hold all your hope and your confidence on getting a result, if you get it, great, pat yourself on the back. But if you make the effort, you pat yourself on the back, regardless of the outcome. Because you need to start focusing on what you can control. And if you start focusing on all the things you control, all the things you can do, you said you've done everything you can, you should be proud of that. So start focusing on your effort and the habit and what you can do every single day instead, because the self-doubt can come in when you start thinking about the things you can't control. And then the third thing is Self-doubt comes from the thoughts in our head. And what thoughts in the simplest way? They're the words and pictures in our heads. So you've got to start working on the words and pictures in your head. How do you do this? Well, start catching out some of the negative words you're saying, and then start questioning them, and then start adding in some good things yourself. And start evidencing the good stuff when you can. That's going to attach the mind and the heart, the think and feeling center, rather than just saying something like, I'm great, I'm amazing. You're not going to believe that. So you need a set of emotion, and then you need to think of evidence why you're great, why you're amazing. It goes back to what I was talking about in the first point. And then you can start saying more of that with your words. And then the pictures, start visualizing yourself doing something confident in advance. And then you can also start visualizing yourself when you've done well in the past. Think of times when you got results and put a smile on your face, because then that's filling your mind with pictures of confidence rather than self-doubt. So start working on the words and pictures in your head. Now, those are my 3 points. And just before I get on to the final special point that you're going to like today, I want to appreciate you for listening. And if you want to come and hang out with me more, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is @Johnny.Pardo. And before the final point, I also wanted to mention again, just if you're looking to really improve an area of your life, whether it's your personal and or professional, you've got these goals, yet self-doubt is really holding you back and you really want to smash through it. Like you're getting those voices that are saying, who are you to be doing this? You're not worthy of doing this. You're pathetic. Some of the words that were in my head until I worked through this. Then a reminder about the self-esteem and confidence booster challenge that is going to be starting the week after next. It's going to be an 8-week challenge, and you've got an early bird price offer as well, which is linked below. And there's 3 prizes per run. So check that out below if that's of interest to you before it runs away. Okay, so my final point is, this links back to what we talked about on the words, but starting writing down all the negative things. This is something when I remember chatting through with some of my coaches. Like when a negative thought comes into your head, write it down on paper and then start actually questioning it. How is that not true? Because when you start asking why it's false, your brain will look for the answer to the question it's given. So you start asking why it's false on the negative stuff, then it will come out of an answer. The problem is we ask lousy questions that give us bad answers, and we start feeling bad about it. So start asking yourself why the negative is false, and then start asking yourself why the positive is true, and just writing this down. Do this for a week. Just write it down first thing in the morning when your thoughts come up. So that's what I've got for you today. Once again, I appreciate you for being here. And if you want to come and hang out with me on Instagram, you can do so. And also a reminder about the challenge. You can find out more before the early bird pricing goes away on Saturday. Find out more about that below as well if you really want to take more control and empowerment over your life and overcome that self-doubt. So I appreciate you for being here. You're improving other people's lives by being the best you. And remember, you are in control of your own self-esteem and confidence.